Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about Nintendo and a lawsuit they've been involved in. So down in Brazil, there's been a lawsuit where they went against Nintendo and a new policy that Nintendo rolled out for the Switch 2 that allows them to essentially permanently brick a Switch 2 if they deem the user has violated the terms of service. Now, I don't think this was as much of an issue for the Nintendo Switch. For the Switch 2, I mean, the PR for the Switch 2, ever since they announced the prices for the games, has just been horrible. So there's this YouTuber here who released a video. His name is Mannix, and the video is titled "Nintendo Loses Millions in Lawsuit After Bricking Switch 2s." I haven't heard about this. This is new to me. So, well, not the breaking part, but the losing millions. I haven't seen this anywhere else. So I want to see what his video is about, see if this is actually true, and see what's going on down in Brazil. Let's go ahead and get into it.
No other company does weaponize nostalgia quite like Nintendo. It's pretty much the entire business strategy. Now I'm kinda pissed off because you don't get to own
He's right. Nintendo lives off of nostalgia with Zelda, Nintendo, Mario. You got Samus with Metroid Prime. I mean, they live off of this stuff.
physical games anymore, and now you don't even own the hardware itself. Hit the like button. Let's get to 80,000 subs. I know we can do it now. You know, there's a funny
Yeah, I'd love to get to 80,000 subs.
Dangerous. Let's up those numbers!
Gonna go for 680,000 1 week. I wish.
Fight Club quote. I think it goes something like, the things you own end up owning you, circa 1999, Tyler Durden. Nintendo is like, you can't sue us, give us money. Oh yes, do something about it. And the public is like, oh really, are you challenging us? Because Nintendo, folks, with the Switch 2 is hell-bent on universally considering themselves the least consumer-friendly gaming company ever. And yet
Nintendo has become a very consumer unfriendly company recently. They were not always like this, but recently they just very much seem to be consumer unfriendly. But the problem is their products are really good. The Switch was really good. The games, if you play the Switch and you like these types of games, they're really good and they play well. And if the Switch 2's got more power and better graphics, and they continue with the type of quality content they released on the Switch, it's going to be successful. But don't get me started on Pokemon. I don't include Pokemon in that quality content.
yes, that includes Microsoft, who's laying off thousands of people a day. Good old Nintendo faces legal action over ability to brick Switch 2s whenever they want.
And the reason I was kind of surprised to hear about this, and that's why I'm watching this video, is Nintendo's very they love going to court, and when they do, they always win. I can't recall a time where Nintendo actually lost a lawsuit. So this is kind of new to me. I know they're right now in battle with Pocket Pair, over that crap with Pal World, because Pal World stole their lunch and was a better Pokemon game than they've released probably in a decade. So I'm kind of curious to see what happens here.
This is from Dexerto. Brazil's consumer watchdog is challenging Nintendo's ULA terms that allow the company to ban consoles from online services in a June 25 press release. Procon SP, the Sao Paulo, Brazil branch of Brazil's Consumer Protection Defense Program, requested changes to Nintendo's end-user license agreement, calling certain clauses abusive under Brazilian law. See, I knew the Brazilians were pretty badass, but now we know for sure the main concern is Nintendo's ability to permanently restrict access to services like eShop and online play. If they
I'm torn on it. Oh, let me let him finish the statement here.
believe someone has violated its terms, including unauthorized accessories or pirated software,
I'm torn on this. I understand why Nintendo may not want them to violate the terms of service, obviously, by bricking the Switch 2 or by pirating software. But there's a lot of things that people do that is not necessarily bad that requires them to brick a Switch or a Switch 2. Like, for example, my oldest kid wanted to play Yokai Watch 4. Well, there was no English release of Yokai Watch 4 on the Switch. So when we were in Japan, I bought the Yokai Watch 4 for him. I had to I had to jailbreak the Switch to upload English subs, fan-made English subs for Yokai Watch 4 so he could actually play the game. So there are times where I think there's legit reasons for people to jailbreak and do things to their Switch that Nintendo may not necessarily want. And if you don't like that, then release the things that people are doing it for. If they're doing it for fan made subtitles for games that you haven't translated into English, well, release the English version. I don't know how expensive it would be. Maybe it's more expensive than I realized. But I mean, if you're not doing it because it's expensive, then you shouldn't be hurting, going after people who are doing it for their own enjoyment of the game. How they can separate those people from the ones who are bad actors, I don't know. So I'm kind of torn on this.
Nintendo's end user license agreement states.
And I will admit, there's probably things I'm unaware of. And if I was aware of them, it might change my opinion. So I say all this with a huge asterisk, okay?
You acknowledge that if you fail to comply with foregoing restrictions, Nintendo may render the console or the software permanently unusable in whole or in part. I'm doing it in that voice, by the way, because I can just picture some fella in Nintendo crying his heart out that gamers.
I so want to play that game. I love Mario Kart. And I want to play the game. I wanted to get a Switch too, but with all the pricing and the PR, I'm like, no, I'm waiting.
And actually do whatever
Assuming I
they
even
want with
end
their
up
own
getting
product. Any affected consoles receive the 21, 24, 45, 08 error code and lose total access to online. The console still works offline but has already resulted in fans unknowingly buying affected second-hand consoles.
Holy okay. I can see a problem with that. So Nintendo bricks a Switch, and then the people sell their Switch because it got bricked. And then the people who buy that Switch, not realizing it was bricked, okay, that I can see a problem with.
If you brick something I paid $500 on, we are going to have a massive
But
problem.
another problem with them breaking it and stopping them from being able to get online is more and more games now require you to be online. I don't know how many Nintendo games do, but there's a lot of games that require you to be connected online to even play them. So that's a problem as well, that you could buy a game and not be able to play it because they bricked your Switch from and disallowed it from being able to connect to the online system. Therefore, you can't play the game.
What are you? I just want to reiterate how insane this whole thing is. You can buy something and then have it rendered completely useless because the manufacturer doesn't like how you used it. This should be on the front page of almost every news outlet, especially the technology sector.
But here's my thing. If you're doing something to break the law, I can understand why they may want to take steps. I don't know. I'm so torn on this. I really am. I'm really torn on this. Because I can see both sides.
But it does look like it.
I would lean more towards the consumer here, honestly. If I had to pick a side, I would lean more towards the consumer. There's so many consumer unfriendly practices a lot of these large corporations take that I'm not inclined to give them the benefit of the doubt. Plus, I do know there are, like I said just a few minutes ago, there are good reasons for why some people do, in fact, jailbreak their Switches.
Does sound like Brazil is standing up for gamers' rights. Maybe they'll put Nintendo in some kind of Brazilian jiu-jitsu move and choke them out. Just so you understand, in Brazil, the minimum wage is 1,400 BRL, which is roughly about $260 and the Switch 2 costs 4,800 BRL. So imagine paying 4 times your wage only to have it bricked. Nintendo should be sued out of the ask for this. Now that the Brazilians have put them in a 4-leg lock, it's time for the European Commission to also follow suit and take a closer look at that Nintendo end user license.
I do think Europe, even the US, unfortunately, US has always seemed to be slow with this stuff. They're always behind Europe when it comes to this stuff. But I do think I like what Brazil's doing. I do think Europe needs to look at this as well. Even if you don't win a lawsuit, if you legally challenge things and get enough attention, towards consumer unfriendly policies, that may in and of itself force these companies and corporations to change those consumer unfriendly policies. I mean, so I love that, governments are trying to hold corporations accountable. Here in the US, we don't do that enough.
Agreement because it feels 110% illegal and it looks like the rest of the world might be waking up.
I don't know if it's illegal, but it feels shitty. That much I agree with. It definitely feels shitty
to this fact. I can't believe I need to say this, but I'll make this as clear as I possibly can. Once you've bought a Switch 2, it's not Nintendo's console anymore, it's yours. If Kim Kardashian wants to take that Nintendo Switch and stick it up her wazoo, she can. And I'm pretty sure...
Yeah, but you're not breaking terms of service by doing that. So here's the thing. I agree that if you buy it, you should be able to do whatever you want with it as long as it's not illegal, right? And pirating software, that you tend to cross that line. So I'm not saying that they should be allowed to pirate software, but there are things I think you should be allowed to do with the Nintendo Switch and the Nintendo Switch 2 that probably Nintendo doesn't want you to do and will probably brick your Switch 2 for doing so. Now, I do think this is just a logical step with where we've been going with video games. Like, you don't even own your video games anymore. You know, the systems, like I said, they force you to be online. If you're not online, you can't play it. I can get my Nintendo or Super Nintendo out, plug it in, and get games I bought 40, 50 years ago and still be able to play it without any issues, right? I don't need the internet to play it. So I don't like the always online requirement that some of these video games have. Not to mention, they can always push out updates. You buy a game. There was an example of this not just recently, not that long ago. I can't remember the name of the game, but there was a game that came out on the PC. And you had like dismemberment and other things in the game. And so they recently released a console version of the game. Well, I guess to get the game released on console, they had to change things. They had to censor things. So they didn't, and the game had crossplay, right? And I guess the devs were like, if we're going to do crossplay, then both versions of the game have to be the same. So instead of leaving the game uncensored to get on the console, because I think the console platforms were requiring them to censor it, they back censored, essentially, retroactively censored the PC version. And a lot of PC users were up in arms on this. I don't like the fact that they can go and change things in the game after the fact. They could just push down updates. I'll give you another example. Stellar Blade. When this disc was printed and shipped, people could buy it without the day zero, I think day zero or day one patch, whatever you want to call it, that Sony forced on Stellar Blade to censor certain outfits. Now they haven't rolled back that version of censorship, but they did in a way, in the sense that they released other similar outfits that were more like the original version that you could get in the physical copy. So you could get the physical copy and play the game uncensored, but you would have to disconnect your PlayStation from the internet because you don't want to take that day zero patch. So I don't like the fact that you don't own your games, as much as it seems like they want to force you to essentially admit that you're buying a license to play the game, and they have every right to change the game in any way they see fit, even after you've already bought the game. So it's ridiculous. It really is.
Literally every other console can fit inside that massive hole anyway. Every time Nintendo does this, it should be legally recognized as vandalism. Because as far as the law is concerned, emulation is not illegal. And if it's done...
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if it's legal or illegal. I don't know. I know they go after a lot of these ROM type sites. There was some famous ROM or emulation tools or products that people use to emulate games. I think Nintendo went after a lot of them. I don't know if it's because they were just emulating in and of itself, or if it was because maybe they were emulating other games that violated policies or laws. I don't know. So I can't tell you if emulation in and of itself is illegal or not. I don't know.
For your own purposes, and you aren't connecting to Nintendo services whatsoever, why the fuck should they care? Modding a console isn't some heinous crime. It's not like you're sawing off a shotgun so you can get better bullet spread so you can conceal it easier. You know what actually drives me nuts about the Switch 2? Imagine having...
But it could be. You could compare it to the whole, sawing off the end of a shotgun. You could be jailbreaking or modding your Switch to do some of that illegal stuff, and I think that's what Nintendo's worried about. I'm not saying I'm supporting Nintendo with what they're doing, but I'm just saying, devil's advocate here. That's what they're afraid of, and that's what they're going after. They're trying to stop people who do pirate video games. Like I said, there are legit reasons why people will need to mod or jailbreak their Switch, right? So I tend to lean towards the side of the consumer on this, just because of how consumer unfriendly Nintendo and other corporations are.
No media apps work at launch. No YouTube, no Hulu, no Twitch, no OLED, fake HDR, which we could all sue them for, by the way, because that was false advertising. No real improvement to battery,
I have
cheap
no idea.
D-pad, $80 to $90 of worse looking games running on
This guy's just going all in on Nintendo. Holy shit.
outdated specs. Even the fucking packaging scheme was absolutely lazy. A single
Lazy?
thin
Okay.
piece of cardboard between the outside and upward facing screen, which can easily
Holy
get
shit.
poked.
I remember hearing stories about that where people got Nintendo Switches and their screens were already like broken or cracked, or they were damaged because of something that was done with I guess the way people treated or handled it. I can't remember the details, but I do remember hearing issues about that. So he's got a point there with the packaging. It was very horrible. If you could easily destroy the screen without even opening the box, that's ridiculous.
That seemed like a very easy way to ensure a lot of people who open their boxes to shattered screens. Another one of their lies is when they claim that we fixed stick drift by redesigning everything from the ground up. But the reality is just straight up the same old nonsense, straight up just another false advertising gimmick.
You know what I think causes the stick drift on a lot of these Joy-Cons? I don't think they could fix it, honestly. I really don't. They get so abused. You got games like Mario Party and for an example, that causes you to do things that's so damaging. I would assume damage. Well, put it this way, it causes a lot of stress on a Joy-Con, on the joystick itself. I mean, they're sitting here doing this, they're trying to turn it, trying to move it, all this other stuff, pushing. I mean, there's so much you do, because a lot of those mini games require you to do things with joysticks, and they take so much stress and abuse, right? Wear and tear. I think that's the issue with these Joy-Cons, games that cause a lot of it. Now, if you don't play games like that and you still have stick drift issues, then I could be wrong, and maybe the just crap quality, which very well could be the case.
When are the people gonna finally stop giving them the benefit of the doubt with all the money Nintendo made from the Switch 1
And now that I think about it, I do have several Joy-Cons with stick drift, and I don't play Mario Party hardly at all. So maybe it is just bad quality. Maybe that's just purely the issue.
sales, you would think that they would improve these very simple things. They have a very, very closed off and a very restrictive ecosystem where you have to pay for online play and features, not to mention you're beholden to one of the most anti-consumer and greedy companies in the business. They only have one ace in the hole, and that's their first-party catalog that transcends generations. And as long as
There's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of consoles that would love to have that. Xbox did have it with Halo and Gears of War and Fable. They kind of fucked that up. Does Sony really have anything? I mean, I guess you could talk about, some of the shooter games like Rainbow Siege. I don't know if those are on PlayStation or I don't know enough about those. But I don't know if Sony has any. Sony used to have Crash Bandicoot. Crash Bandicoot used to be kind of like the PlayStation's version of Mario and stuff, but they kind of did away with that. They don't really do that anymore. So I don't know. I mean, so I think it's great that they got a golden few sets of IPs that they can go to and create money by printing out another decent to high quality game. Like you got Metroid, you got Zelda, you got Mario. I mean, there's a lot. You got Mario Party. There's a lot of IPs there that they could easily use to make money. And I think that's good. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
they target the morons with that, they can practically get away with anything. Well, they
Having games will deliver allows you to take risks with other games.
have been. Realistically, Nintendo's never
Donkey
going
Kong
to
was another
lose
one.
money because there's too many people who would defend these actions. The Nintendo drones will say, oh my god, it's Trump's tariffs, instead
Yeah.
of just looking right in front of them and seeing the very obvious greed. These same morons will be like, Nintendo should have the right to take away what I paid for, And the actual regular
I hate the freaking game key cards. I hate that shit, man. I hate that they're trying to. And look, I don't think there's any stopping this. I don't think governments are going to have the willpower or the ability to stop this. Well, they could probably have the ability, but I don't think they're going to have the willpower. Nor do I think they care. But I think ultimately we're moving to a digital a digital age with video games. I think we're moving away from the physical boxes, or not physical box, but the physical games. Sadly, it is what it is. I don't think it's going. I don't think we can roll back the clock. I really don't think we can.
The government regulators are like, well, no, actually they don't. What's funny is if you look at something like the Steam Deck, that has OLED and emulation is ridiculously easy on that. Sure, these other handhelds might be more expensive, but they are much more powerful and flexible. You can literally run anything on them. You can emulate, you can pirate, you can stream, you can use it for productivity, basically anything.
Okay. Okay. Emulation and pirating, that you can do that. Is that what they're upset that they can't do on the Nintendo Switch? Just pirate? Is that what the big issue is? Because I'm trying to look at it from the consumer side and be more consumer friendly here. But if pirating is the biggest issue, I can't support that.
Anything you want. Oh, and I almost forgot. I can't believe more isn't being made.
The only time I support pirating is if the game isn't released in your region in a manner that you can actually play it, or if the game is no longer produced and you can't get a hold of it. Then I'm okay with pirating or emulating a game that you can no longer pay to play. That I'm okay with. But if the game is readily available, it's on the shelf at your local GameStop, Target, Walmart, or the digital store, then that's a different story. I don't support pirating. You don't really need to emulate it at that point. You can download it. So if they pirating, to me, is more of an issue where the company's not putting their product out there easily available for a consumer to get. You know, TVs and movies have this issue now that we have like a crap ton of streaming services. It's no longer easy to get what you want to watch. So sometimes I can understand why people may want to pirate it. They don't want to subscribe to 10 different streaming services. I understand that. With video games, if you can't easily find what you want because it's not being produced or made anymore or supported anymore by the company that made it, then I can understand wanting and pirating that game.
Out of them, Nintendo selling game cartridges without the actual game on them. What the?
It's ridiculous.
How is that
Fucking
even
stupid.
a thing? I mean, I remember when Xbox was crucified for their DRM nonsense with the Xbox One, to the point where they never really recovered from it, and they are still laying off people left and right every quarter. But now we have Nintendo doing the same shit.
I don't think the whole DRM crap you just mentioned has anything to do with them laying off people now. I mean, I could get into that, but I'm not. That's not what this video is about. But let's just say that has nothing to do with it. Don't act like you guys did that by pushing back on DRM. Yeah, it's not even related.
Probably worse, and people are like, meh, who cares, it's fine. The hypocrisy and the double standards go crazy, but not according to Brazil and not according to the real gamers. And on that bombshell, I can never support
the real gamers. I love that term, because that term is so overly used online. It's just like, even with comics, the real DC fans, or the real Marvel fans, or the real gamers, you know?
Nintendo after what they did to Power World and the emulation community. They deserve.
I fully support with him being upset with what they did with Power World. That's fucking ridiculous, and I can't support Nintendo at all with it. In fact, it's made Nintendo look like a bad guy as far as I'm concerned.
To get sued up the arse. I want to know what all of you think in the comments. Manix out.
Okay, good video. All right, so yeah, so let me know what you guys think. I didn't hear anything. I think this title was bait. I really do. I didn't hear anything about how they losing millions. It sounded like it's kind of in the process still. So it sounds like they're being sued, or at least it's being looked at to see if they are violating any sort of rights down in Brazil with their whole terms of service and them being able to break your Nintendo Switch too. Sadly, I don't see anything changing. I really don't. I think it's going to take a lot more pressure by these government organizations, the EU, Brazil, the US should get involved, but again, the US won't, because they don't care about this type of crap. They don't. It doesn't affect the millionaires or billionaires and the people in power, so they don't really care. They don't care about average, everyday people like you and me. No. But I do think a lot of this stuff should be challenged, because I think anything that's not consumer friendly shouldn't exist. If your corporation doesn't exist to be consumer friendly and you're just greed, you shouldn't exist. I know companies are in business to make money, obviously, for themselves, But if you're doing it in a way that is consumer unfriendly and you're taking advantage of your customers, or your product is crap or something like that, whatever, if your product's crap, that's consumer unfriendly. So if you're doing it in a manner that's consumer unfriendly, then you shouldn't exist. I'm sorry, you shouldn't. If you can't make money as a business and be consumer friendly and put out good products for your customer, then you shouldn't be in business. I look, I know that's probably a very hot take and controversial take, but it is what it is. So, all right. Well, listen, let me know what you guys think down below. Do you support what Nintendo's doing with the whole breaking the Switch 2s, or do you support what Brazil's trying to do? And do you think your government should get involved? If you do, reach out to your local, congressman, senate, legislator, whoever, and see if you can get something started. I don't know if you need a petition similar to like the Stop Killing Game stuff, or how you would do it. Honestly, I'd have to look into it myself. But let me know what you think down below in the comments. If you like the video, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to my channel for more content. I drop videos, I do live streams, I put shorts out there. I would love to see you in the comments of both my videos and my live stream. So hopefully I'll see you guys there. We're also trying to build a community. So my Discord link is going to be in the description of this video. So if you want to join it, hang out, talk about games and anime and just anything in general, would love to see you guys there. And yeah, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Peace.